Yes, sir. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Tuesday, February 11th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by DK. We're brought to you by Underdog. We only have 4 games today. None of these teams are on the back-to-back. We've got some of the information, but we still have a couple Q tags to wait on. We've got a monster slate tomorrow. I'm not super worried about it. I am focused on this 4-gamer, and I kind of like it, which is rare for a 4-gamer. So we'll see what we like after this hour is over. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. DK, what's going on, man? How was your Super Bowl?
Yeah, Super Bowl was chill. I actually ended up not doing anything, just watched it by myself on the couch. So I was very happy about that. The game sucked, but yeah, it was very, very chill Super Bowl for me. I'm excited. We only have 4 games to talk about here. We're not doing the 14 game slate tomorrow. And yeah, I kind of like this slate. I think there's some nice edges here. So yeah, ready to break it all down.
There's going to be a couple spots we really need to dig into. There's a couple spots where we're waiting on news that is going to be pretty important. This first game is going to have one of those pieces. It's not the first team we talk about, though. That would be the Toronto Raptors. RJ Barrett still out in the concussion protocol. Brandon Ingram not playing today, but he is $120 million richer. Signed a 3-year, $120 million contract with the Raptors today. Jonathan Mobo is probable. That is relevant because Jakob Poeltl is out with the right hip pointer. We're getting some ownership into Toronto, 40% to Emmanuel Quickly. We're getting 25% to Ochai Agbaji and just shy of 30% to Grady Dick. We're also seeing about 10% to Scotty Barnes and Jonathan Mobo. This is the slowest pace game on the slate. It's by far the lowest total on the slate, but with 4 games, you can't just avoid things because they don't look good. So let's start with the most owned guy on this team. How do you feel about a $6,100 Emmanuel Quickly?
Yeah, so I think Emmanuel Quickly is one of the better point per dollar plays in the slate. In my opinion, underpriced right now for the amount of minutes that he's getting. So they've really they eased him back in Toronto. First few games back from injury, he played like sub 20 minutes, played 28 there against Oklahoma City, and then played 30 against Houston in a competitive game and did not close that game. So I think there's definitely upside for a few more minutes here for Quickly. So yeah, I mean, you have like a lot of the main guys out for Toronto. Obviously, Brandon Ingram, no RJ Barrett, no Jakob Poeltl. So a lot of the offense is going to be Quickly and Scotty Barnes. So yeah, in general, I just think he's one of the best plays right now on the slate. I think you're expecting around 30 minutes, could play a little bit more. So totally understand why the ownership is there right now and Quickly.
The league is in trouble. Alex Len has signed with the Lakers. Watch out, everybody. Now it's on. That'll probably make a difference. Yeah, look, Quickly looks good. He's got some minutes upside now that we know that he can get up to 30. He's probably a little underpriced, especially with RJ Barrett out. I'm not surprised at all to see that ownership coming in. How do you see the difference between Akbaji and Grady Dick? Because they're basically owned the same, but I think they look a little different.
Yeah, for me, I much prefer Grady Dick. Now he only played 14 minutes last game. He got injured, so not super worried about that. I think you're probably expecting in a competitive game a little over 30 minutes for Grady Dick. So yeah, give me Dick over Agbaji. The issue with Agbaji is he's just not a great point per minute player. And Toronto's still they still have other bodies that they can throw minutes at. So I think Grady Dick's role is a bit more secure also than Agbaji. So yeah, it's similar ownership for me. Yeah, I love Dick.
Well aware. Interested to know how you feel about the Raptors player. I don't know if that's a different statement or not.
Oh, yes. I love both, right? No.
There we go.
No, Grady Dick. Yeah, no, I think he's really a really good option right now.
Okay, I'm with you there. So I started looking at play type data, and there are only 3 spots that grayed out as strongly favorable spots for Toronto here. One of which is Chris Boucher in spot ups. We could have a Chris Boucher conversation in a bit if you want. One is Brandon Ingram in spot ups. super irrelevant in this particular case. One is Grady Dick in spot ups. So Sixers tend to give up a little bit too much production for guys that are just spotting up for threes. Grady Dick's a good 3-point shooter. Might lean into a slightly better matchup here for Grady Dick. What do you want to do with Barnes and Mobo? They're both around 10% owned. Barnes at 9,200, so you're paying up a little bit more.
Mhm.
Mobo at 4,900, but seems to just have the center job, at least as for right now.
Yeah, so I want to keep. Well, I think we have to keep an eye on the status of Joel Embiid on the opposite side because
Yep.
I kind of have a take where if Embiid plays, I think that Toronto will actually start Orlando Robinson over Mobo,
Okay.
and I think if Embiid does not play, that they'll probably start Mobo at the 5, just because Orlando Robinson is like the biggest guy that they have, and I think matched up a little bit better defensively than Mobo. So keep an eye on the Embiid news. My thoughts are it's a back-to-back for Philly, and he's playing at home, or they're playing at home today, obviously against Toronto. Tomorrow is on the road against Brooklyn. So my lean is that Embiid plays today and then sits tomorrow. So yeah, if Embiid plays and they shift Mobo to the bench, obviously, then it'll have much interest. So keep an eye on that starting lineup. I think will be very important. Do you think that if Embiid plays, that Orlando Robinson could start?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if you just want to go a little bit bigger in this instance, try to match up with size. I don't think they really care what's out there between Mobo or Orlando Robinson. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that is certainly in the cards to me. Does that make you like Orlando Robinson?
Yeah, I think like right now he's not getting any ownership. I think that will change if he starts because Orlando Robinson is not a bad point per minute player.
No.
On the season, he's about a one fancy point per minute player. 3.9K right now getting no ownership. So yeah, like if he ends up getting the start, I think he'd be one of the better values in the slate because I don't think this would be a spot start. We've seen Toronto give kind of some of these like backup center spot starts before, but I think if Embiid plays, that you would probably see Orlando Robinson get extended a bit.
Okay. Anything for some of these other guys, your Jacoby Walters, your Jamal Sheds? It seems like the focus is really just quickly Agbaji and Dick with a little extra sprinkled somewhere else. What else do you like here, if anything?
Yeah. So Jamal Shed, he closed over quickly last game. So he got extended a little bit, played 19 minutes. I think if quickly plays a few extra minutes, that obviously would hurt Jamal Shed. So yeah, he's 3.9K right now. He's not getting much ownership. If you think they're still going to kind of cap quickly around 30 minutes or so, then I think you can take a shot in Jamal Shed. If you think that quickly is playing a few more minutes, then Shed's probably not someone I would want to get to. So kind of depends on what you think the minutes will be there for quickly. The rest of these kind of fringe players, not much interest in Jacoby Walter. Chris Boucher is 4,100. I think I would like Boucher a little bit more if Orlando Robinson starts. Just I think I'd be a little bit more confident with the minutes for Boucher.
Okay.
He's a pretty good point per minute player. So if you can find his way into a few extra minutes, that's always a positive for Boucher. And he's got power forward eligibility as well. So he's someone that I definitely have some interest in at low ownership because again, he's just a good point per minute player. And if he's playing well or someone gets in foul trouble or whatever, if he just finds his way in a few extra minutes, he can have a really solid game.
The number one portfolio EV play on the Raptors right now is Jonathan Mobo, under 6.5 rebounds. It's got a 5% historical ROI. This one's sitting out there on FanDuel. 5 OddsShopper rating, 3.7 expected value. It did jump up a little bit earlier to like 10 or 15 or something in that neighborhood. It's back down to 5 now. But that is the best play that we have on the Raptors side. So if you're not a big believer in Mobo, if maybe you think that Orlando Robinson can start this game, it might be a good time to grab a Mobo under rebounds play.
Yeah, I actually really like that play. So he didn't have props up. I was looking for his props earlier; they didn't have it up. So like that might be something I'd take after the stream.
There we go. Okay. The next side of this one is the Philadelphia 76ers side. Joel Embiid is questionable for this one with left knee injury management. No Eric Gordon, no Kyle Lowry, no David Roddy. Don't even think I remembered that the Sixers got David Roddy. So there's that. Let's start with the easy or the only real talking point here.
Yep.
Do you think Joel Embiid is playing?
I do, and it's just because I think it makes more sense for him to play at home than to play on the road in Brooklyn. So if he's going to sit one of the games, I think it's a little bit more likely that he sits tomorrow against Brooklyn.
I'm nervous he's not playing because I have the line at 11 and a half. The line is currently 9.5. I'm little nervous about his
Hmm.
status, but it's a 7 o'clock start. I don't actually care. We're going to get this news
Right.
sometime in that 6 to 7 window. So this one won't matter as much. Joel Embiid is 15% owned. The next highest owned guy on Philadelphia is 5% to Quentin Grimes. I don't mind the Embiid ownership. I would argue that it might even be a little low, especially against Toronto. I think the rest of Philly is pretty massively underowned, whether that's Maxey or Oubre or Quentin Grimes. But if Embiid is in, how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I think he's going under owned right now, though. Now, obviously, there is some risk with Embiid, right? His health, but like he only played 30 minutes last game. I think there's definitely upside for more. The game against Detroit was a blowout. He didn't come back. Against Dallas, he played 36 minutes in his first game back. So we know like Embiid can play mid 30s minutes. On this season, let me bring it up. But obviously, we know Embiid is a really good point per minute player. So on the year, he is 1.49. Again, solid spot here against Toronto. Whether it be Orlando Robinson or Mobo, whoever's on him, like Embiid should be able to have his way here. So assuming Embiid plays, yeah, I like the ownership on him at 15%. That's definitely someone I would want to get overweight to.
I think he looks awesome. Very clearly the best Philadelphia option. I'm really surprised to see 2% ownership to Maxey,
Mhm.
3 to Kelly Oubre, even 5 to Grimes with no Eric Gordon here. I think these guys are massively underrepresented. Toronto's not very good. It's only a 4 game slate, so raw points are a little bit more interesting. To me, like Maxey at 2%, Oubre at 3% are criminally low.
Yeah, I think those guys are definitely in play for tournaments. No, if you're looking at guys in that range, I think there's better point per dollar options. But again, they're not getting like any ownership. So like Maxi is playing huge minutes in competitive games. Last game he played 40 minutes. So yeah, and then Oubre again in competitive games is usually in the mid to high 30s minute range. He played 36 minutes last game. So in large field tournaments, yeah, I think those guys are viable because right now they're basically getting no ownership. And obviously things will change if Embiid gets ruled out. That'll completely flip things, and then those guys would look way, way better.
Tyrese Maxey as the pick and roll ball handler on the year, a little over a point per minute in that spot. Raptors not very good handling the ball handler in a pick and roll. This is a strongly favorable matchup for Tyrese Maxey. He also has the other strongly favorable matchup for Philly here. Coming off a screen, Raptors don't guard it very well. Two more notes to me that just kind of make this spot look a little bit better for Maxey as somebody you can go to in a larger field GPP. It's sort of the same situation for Oubre. I'm just not as worried about the matchup. I just like the fact that he plays 36, 37, 38 minutes every night.
Mhm.
Grimes's role seems to be set in stone now for Philly, especially with no Gordon. All three of those guys look good. Paul George, on the other hand, I'm still not very interested in. Pour one out. While we may have gotten some dick from the Raptors, we will not be getting any wood from the Lakers any longer. He has now been waived by Los Angeles. Do you have any interest in Paul George here? Sorry, I went off topic.
No, that was big news. But yeah, now Paul George, minutes have not been amazing on him over the last few games, 32, 30, 29. I mean, the price has dropped on him and he's not getting much ownership, but yeah, currently if Embiid plays, I don't think I don't think he's someone that I would get to.
Yeah, he's just not grading out well for me. If we don't have Joel Embiid, how do you want to handle 6K Yabu and
Mhm.
$4,500 Andre Drummond or flat 3K Adam Bona?
Yeah, so I want to see what they would do with the starting lineup. My assumption is that Yabusele would start at the five, and then Drummond would play the backup five. But we have seen before with Embiid out, Drummond starting at the five, and then Yabusele starting at the four, and then Yabusele can play like some backup 5 minutes as well. So that starting lineup would be important if Embiid does not play. If it's Yabusele at the five. 6K. Like I think he would be in play, but not someone I would go out of my way to play. If it's Drummond that starts at the 5 and Yabusele starts like alongside of him, then I would have a little bit more interest in both, but especially Drummond, 4.5K, I think would be someone that would be a really good value. If Embiid sits or if he doesn't play, do you think that's possible? They could start like Drummond and Yabusele together?
I don't think they will just because of the matchup, but it's certainly in the range of outcomes. It's
Yep.
something we've seen them do before. My
Okay.
guess would be they just go to Yabu at the 5 and call it a day.
Yeah. Okay. So if they start Yabusele at the 5, do you think he would be like a solid option at 6K?
Not really.
Yeah, like
Um,
I think
yeah,
he's
it's probably a
like
little expensive.
exactly. That's my thoughts too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna it's just gonna make Philly look a bit worse. I mean, I guess it'll make like Maxey and Paul George look better to the public, but
Mhm.
I don't think they're gonna move all that much at this point. So I'm hoping I could just get to Maxey and let him be the way that I get different.
Yeah, I think Paul George would probably be the guy that would look the best in that scenario if Embiid does not play, because he's someone right now I don't have much interest in. But if Embiid doesn't play, I would have a lot more interest in Paul George. 1.16 fantasy point per minute player on the year with Embiid off the court.
Schedule for the rest of the day, guys. I'll give you that after you guys hit the like button. We're up over 129. I feel like we could run down 200 pretty quickly. It's the same thing we always have. We have NBA Live Before Lock with Greg and Eric coming up at 6. They're going to break it down from 6 to 7. They'll get this Toronto Philly news that we're waiting on. They'll get starting lineups. They'll be able to put you guys on the right path. And then we transition to playback.tv/Stokastic. We're watching, in this case, the Toronto Philly game. That's not a national TV game, is it?
Toronto Philly? I don't think so.
Just making sure.
No, it looks like Knicks, Pacers, and then Grizzly Suns are the national TV ones.
Okay, so we'll have Toronto and Philly to start. We'll be watching that one. We'll be reacting to news for Knicks and Pacers. We'll be dealing with ownership and late swaps and bets and anything that we could possibly think of. You guys can join us, watch the games. If you have a League Pass account, you just link it up. This is all totally free. If you don't have League Pass, we have 20 VIP passes that we can give out. Worst case scenario, it's just like this show. You'll just see Greg and I talking about some basketball. So make sure you're joining us. It's a great place to be. New York Knicks, as we just mentioned, 2.5 point favorites in Indiana, 239 total. We've got injuries to wait on both sides here. OG Anunoby is technically questionable for the Knicks. Miles Turner is questionable for the Pacers. Those are the only two pieces of injury news that we're really worried about. Currently, we have OG Anunoby out of the projections. We've got 10% ownership coming into Bridges. We've got 10% ownership to Precious, 10% ownership to McBride. And then we get about 30 to Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and Karl Anthony Towns. How do you want to manage this Knicks team? I'm just throwing it to you.
Yeah, so first, I guess with the OG one, I don't think he's going to play. I think he's more on the doubtful side. So we got a report that he only participated in portions of practice on Monday. And then Shams on Saturday reported that he was likely to remain sidelined through the All-Star break. So I don't think that OG is going to play. Obviously, that's not a guarantee. Like there's still a chance he could, but right now I'm leaning that he doesn't play basketball. So you should get Precious Achiuwa in the starting lineup there. But yeah, three guys in the most ownership right now: Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and Josh Hart, all hovering around 30% ownership. I think all three stand out as pretty good point per dollar plays. I think the guy that I like the best, I think just has the highest ceiling is Karl Anthony Towns. A little bit surprised he's not getting a bit more love at this price point. So the Knicks also, against Boston, that game was a blowout. He only played 28 minutes. In competitive games where Karl Anthony Towns avoids foul trouble, like he's playing high 30s minutes, right? He played 39 there against Toronto, 38 against Houston. On the season, let me bring it up. Give me one sec. Karl Anthony Towns is a 1.42 fantasy point per minute player. So yeah, right now, I think of the three guys getting a lot of love, he is the preferred option, but like 8.4K for Brunson definitely feels a little bit underpriced as well. Josh Hart at 7.6 is just playing huge minutes, right? With OG out, like you're probably getting, around 40 minutes from Josh Hart. So I understand why he's getting some love too. So all three stand out, in my opinion, is pretty good point per hour plays, but I think the guy I like the best there is Cat.
Towns looks great at 9,400. I love the matchup for him. I love the pace up spot the Knicks are getting. Um, I am getting a bunch of Towns. I don't have anything negative to say. I just think I like Jalen Brunson a little bit better.
Okay.
Pacers are terrible against pick and roll ball handlers. He's sitting there at 8,400, which just feels like the weirdest price. It's just so low compared to Maxi. He's in the same exact range as Halliburton, and he's three times his own. You know, you've got Ja out there today. You've got Devin Booker in that 9K range as well. I think it's part of the reason why you see so little coming out of Maxi. Jalen Brunson's just so cost effective at that price point that it's really
Hmm.
blocking everything else out. So while I like Brunson a ton, I do see him as like the natural, oh, you just swap Brunson to Maxi, make one other pivot somewhere else, and you have a much more unique lineup. So I'm finding that push and pull balance of Brunson's salary to be at least a little problematic. And then you get someone like Josh Hart out there at 7,600. He's a threat for a triple double all the time. I never really feel like he's in a good matchup or a bad matchup. I feel like matchups
Hmm.
don't even matter for him, but he seems great, especially if Anunoby ends up out. I'm really curious about all of it because the Knicks don't seem like the type of team that would list OG Anunoby as questionable unless he is like actually questionable. Like he might play today. Most other teams, I would just be like, this is cosmetic. They'll just end
Hmm.
up pulling him. You know, it doesn't seem like he's healthy enough. Wait it out over the break. Tibbs is probably like, if you could play, you could play. So
You know, he's a crazy person. He's going to want to try to push OG to play.
yeah, so that does concern me at least a little bit. We'll see it. I don't think that it's going to create any sort of like major like problematic swaps or anything. Precious is getting 10% ownership. McBride's getting 10. It's the second game. You'll be able to move it around if you're getting to
Hmm.
Precious or McBride. So I'm not sweating it too much. Right now, I think I'm ranking these guys Brunson, Hart, Towns,
Okay.
but I don't want to undersell Towns because I do think he looks great. I do find Mikal Bridges to be kind of interesting, especially if Anunoby is out. Only 10% owned, 6,300, great positionality. Maybe not the best per minute guy in the world, but would you be surprised in any way if he played 40 minutes today?
No, not at all. I mean, he was literally on pace to play that last game, and the game blew out. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up is the Knicks rotation last game. They basically ran a seven-man rotation. So it was obviously the five starters: Cat, Hart, Bridges, Brunson, Achua. You saw Campaign play about 6 minutes in the first half. And then Miles McBride played a good amount there in the first half. And that was really it. Ariel Hukporti played 2 minutes as the eighth guy. So the Knicks really just ran a seven-man rotation. And in the second half, it was basically similar. Like it was the starters. McBride actually started the second half over Achua. And then Campaign played until the game blew out, where they emptied the bench and played DeLon Wright, Shamit, and guys like that. But yeah, New York basically ran a seven-man rotation. So if they run a similar rotation, then yeah, like Mikal Bridges not getting much ownership. I think a totally reasonable option. Another guy I wanted to mention is Miles McBride. So he's kind of underperformed, in my opinion, for the minutes bump that he's gotten. Like 26 there against Houston, played 35 against Boston. He shot 1 of 8. I mean, if McBride is a decent shooting game and he pushes for close to 30 minutes, I think I definitely have more interest in him than the current 10% ownership. Again, that's assuming that OG is not going to play. So even Precious Achiuwa, 5.6. He's not a high usage player. Like last game, he played 33 minutes. He had a 6% usage, but he's a solid rebounder. He can get those peripheral stats. So even the secondary options for the Knicks, I think, look pretty good, assuming that OG doesn't play, just because they basically ran a seven-man rotation, and I would expect similar rotation again.
Nothing crazy in the portfolio EV tool right now for the Knicks. Under 17.5 points for Mikal Bridges has a 2 odd shopper rating. You can grab that on DraftKings right now if you're looking for it. That's the best thing we have for New York. You're either going to get this Knicks news at like 6:50 during live before lock, or you're going to get it at like 7:01 on playback. So either way, you want to be watching one of those two shows because we are going to break it all down whenever it inevitably comes in. We also have the Pacers on the opposite side with a Q tag on Miles Turner that will be important, or at least mildly important. Thomas Bryant's already a little expensive, so it's not the same sort of, oh my God, we have to jam this guy value,
Mm-hmm.
but we're getting 10% ownership to Halliburton. I think it's an interesting dynamic between 11% ownership to Halliburton and 36 for Jalen Brunson. We've got 20% ownership to Siakam. And then we basically have 10 for Turner, Nemhard, Neesmith, and Obi Toppin. Are you expecting Turner to play today?
So right now I'm leaning that Turner will not play. So the report on Miles Turner is Rick Carlisle said he was able to practice Monday in some capacity. So that doesn't give me a ton of confidence that he's going to be able to play. So I would lean that Turner is a little bit more on the doubtful side as well.
Okay. So if you're assuming that, then let's just have the conversation now. How do you feel about a 5K Thomas Bryant?
Yeah, so 5K Thomas Bryant, he had a awful first half there against the Lakers, but picked it up in a big way there in the second half. So, the price has come up on Thomas Bryant, but I still think he would stand out as a decent point per dollar option. So, on the year, Thomas Bryant 1.09 fancy point per minute. I think you probably expect around 25 minutes for him, give or take. Could play a little bit more, could play a little bit less, but I think he would stand out as a decent point per dollar option. Not someone I would go out of my way to get to, but he would be firmly in play.
Yeah, he would look like a really decent center value at that 5K price tag. What do you want to do with the rest of Indy here? I'm actually getting to a bunch of Miles Turner right now at 6K.
Mm-hmm.
Does he interest you if he's playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Miles Turner plays, like I don't think he's gonna be limited. It's a neck, so like I think if he's gonna be out there, like he's gonna be good to go. Like it's not like a lower body injury or something. So like if he's good to go, I think you're probably expecting low 30s minutes from Miles Turner. So yeah, like if he's out there right now, currently getting sub 10% ownership, I agree. I think he would be going under owned. So that would be someone I want to get overweight to as well.
Okay. What else do we do here with Halliburton,
Mm-hmm.
Siakam, who's the most owned play here, Nemhard, Mathurin, Neesmith, Toppin? There's scattered ownership coming into all these guys. Do you like one of them more than the others?
Not really. I think Siakam's going a little bit overowned right now. Now, I think he would benefit a little bit if Miles Turner does not play. You would see, obviously, Bryant start. Then you'd see some small ball. Obi Toppin would get a bump in minutes as well. So, like, he would look a little bit better if Miles Turner does not play. But, yeah, like a little over 20% for 7.7K Siakam. It feels a bit overowned right now. So not saying you can't get to him, but yeah, it feels a little bit high. Aaron Naismith and Halliburton, the only other guys really getting any ownership. Naismith coming in at 3.6K. We know the Pacers are running a pretty deep rotation. I think you're expecting probably around 20 minutes for Naismith. So I'm indifferent on him. He's got shooting guard, small forward eligibility, a fine filler play, but not really someone that stands out. Halliburton's been very up and down. He's 8.2K. We know that ceiling is 50 plus fantasy points, but we've seen the floor as well. Right? We saw that game against Portland. Went for sub 20 fantasy points. But yeah, like he is someone that currently not getting a ton of ownership that I think you could definitely take a shot on in tournaments just because we know that upside is there. So he feels a little under owned. And then the rest of the team, not really much else to mention. Like Nemhard around 10%. He's 5.3K. Like again, that's just like a last piece in for me as well. On average, you're probably getting, mid to high 20s minutes for him. But yeah, I don't really think there's a ton else for the Pacers. Again, I think his team becomes a little bit more interesting though if Turner is out. Specifically Toppin, I think would be in play there at 4.4.
Agreed. And one note for anybody that is curious and pays attention to NBA transactions more than I do, the Pacers are going to be signing Jahlil Okafor to a 10-day contract. That stopped them from getting Alex Len. As best I can tell, he hasn't signed yet, but even if he did, he is not available in the DraftKings player pool. So you won't have to worry about it on that side. But yeah, on the off chance that Turner is out, he could conceivably just be the backup center.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, though. But it won't matter because you can't roster him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like he could that could like hurt like a guy like Obi Toppin if they try to go to Okafor as the backup five.
You would want to know if he is available or not.
Yes,
that's for sure.
For sure.
We've got a couple really good portfolio EV plays for the Pacer side of this one. Over, which is not typical, over 1.5 threes made for Ben Shepherd is plus 175. 8 OddsShopper rating on DraftKings, 7.1% EV. It's a massive play right now if you guys want to try to grab it. Siakam under 1.5 threes has a 5 OddsShopper rating on FanDuel. That is at minus 113. So if you're not a huge Siakam fan in this spot today, you can go ahead and take his under in threes. If you're feeling it for Ben Shepherd today. Over 1.5 threes has a decent payout if you're looking for it. Let's talk underdog. You guys see the banner on the top of the screen right now. You can sign up at Underdog by clicking the link in the description of this video, and you'll get a 50% first match deposit bonus up to $250, which means if you put in 500 bucks, they'd give you 250 bones just because. Which is a pretty nice deal coming out of Underdog. And they've got everything. Whether you want pick'em, daily fantasy contests, it's obviously the place to be for best ball. You can get into all of that and use Portfolio EV to try and beat it if you want. Maybe not for best ball, but for pick'em, yeah, we've got you covered there. Sign up, click the link. Jordan's got it in chat as well. That makes it pretty easy. You don't even have to go to the description of this video, but you can sign up. It doesn't have to be $500. You can put in 100. They'll match it with 50. But you get a 50% first match deposit bonus if you haven't signed up yet at Underdog. So why not do it right now? Click that link, folks. And hit that like button. A little over 1,500 people in the door. We're at 200. I smell 300 likes in the air. Let me know if that was the right smell. It could have just been me. I have been in this office for a bit. Game number 3, the Detroit Pistons. 4.5-point favorites in Chicago, 237 total. I actually have this as the highest pace game, even though Memphis and Phoenix has a higher total. We don't have anything too crazy here for the Pistons, though. Everybody that's normally available is available. We're getting 25% ownership to Cade Cunningham, 25% ownership to Jalen Duren, just shy of 20 for Asar Thompson, and just over 10 for Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. Let's start with the two guys that are getting the most love, and we'll do it with the most expensive guy on today's slate, $10,500 Cade Cunningham. He's 25% owned. I'm doubling it. Give me all the Cade.
Yeah, I like Cade here. Great matchup against the Bulls, right? This is a team that I love targeting players against because the Bulls play fast. They don't play a ton of defense. So it's like, yeah, great spot here for Cade Cunningham. On the year, he's a 1.41 fantasy point per minute player. He's really the only true like playmaker right now for this team. Over the last 5 games, averaging close to 70 passes made per game, about 18 potential assists. So, yeah, I think Cade looks great. I think he stands out as one of the better spend ups on the board. So, 25%. Yeah, that's totally fine. I would be fine getting overweight to that. Jalen Duren is the other guy getting a lot of ownership. He's around 30%. That scares me a little bit. Now Duren's been involved and been playing well recently, but we know Duren is just very foul prone, and we've seen at times like he can struggle. They can go to Isaiah Stewart. So usually he's someone I would prefer getting to at lower ownership, and it feels going to gravitate towards Duren. I think that's someone that I would be fine getting going underweight to, or even getting away from. So yeah, as far as the two main guys go, I do like Cade a good amount. I think Duren going a bit overowned, and if that holds, that's someone I'm fine fading. If it kills me, it kills me.
I feel okay about Duren in this spot. And it's mostly just because of the Bulls, which is, it's Chicago. The interesting part for me for the Bulls, they are dead last in offensive free throw rate. Absolute 30th in the league. They don't shoot a ton of free throws. They don't have DeMar DeRozan here anymore. Hell, Zach LaVine isn't even here anymore. This is just not a team that gets to the line. And if they're not getting to the line all that frequently, I'm also going to go ahead and assume that that's going to keep Jalen Duren at least a little bit out of foul trouble. This is the type of matchup that makes me feel a little bit better about it. Whether or not that ends up being true or not, we shall see. But for a team that's not going to shoot too many free throws, makes me feel like Duren can keep himself on the floor a little bit more. So I get why he's getting that ownership. My tricky part for this game is what I do with Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Asar Thompson, because I think the ownership is all sort of correct. I assume one of those guys ends up looking good in the end. I don't know how to separate those three dudes.
Yeah, the thing that worries me a little bit about guys like Asar Thompson, Tim Hardaway Jr. a little bit more specifically is now we have like Dennis Schroeder with the team. And Schroeder in his first game only played 15 minutes off the bench. But like I think if he's playing well, like he's someone that could take away minutes from Tim Hardaway Jr. So that scares me a little bit. Asar Thompson, we've seen the minutes fluctuate for him. He had that one really big game where Cade didn't play. Now Asar Thompson's been solid point per minute, but again, the minutes fluctuate for him. So I think you're probably on average expecting around 25 minutes. Could be a little less, could be a little bit more. And then Tobias Harris is the other guy that you mentioned, around 10%. I'm always kind of just like indifferent on him when this team is fully healthy. He has a pretty secure role, usually playing low to mid 30s minutes. Not a great point per minute player, so he's someone that would be like a last piece in guy to me. But yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. I'm a little bit worried about just because I think Schroeder could eat in his role. I think like Schroeder could close over him in some games too.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see where his minutes end up landing. I think that
Mm-hmm.
could end up being tricky-ish. Because obviously he's good enough. I'm using that term pretty loosely. Good enough on the Pistons to play like 30 minutes on a random day and you don't see it coming and could absolutely pay off a $4,500 price tag. Give me Cade though. That's the one I want, man. Bull's not that great against pick and roll. Cade kind of good at it. So I'm just going full stop Cade. My only concern is just that I have so much Cade that it's going to block me out from getting to a little bit more maxi. I don't know where I'm going to shave this point guard ownership from, but I need to shave it from somewhere because I'd like to get some Tyrese Maxey. Might not matter. Maybe Embiid gets ruled out and then Maxey just shows up differently and everything that I think about Tyrese Maxey as the pivot just goes away. I don't want that to be the case. I'd rather just get to him because I like him here. There's not much to talk about for Detroit. Like this is just kind of their only interesting part of all of this is really Schroeder. Actually, let's talk one guy here because on the next team, we're going to talk about a backup center that's getting a little bit of love.
Yep.
Do you have any interest in Isaiah Stewart at 3,400?
Yep, that was the next guy I was going to bring up. So I think he's a really interesting tournament option right now, because we know that Jalen Duren right now is projected to be a pretty popular play. Obviously, if he does get in foul trouble or just struggles, like Isaiah Stewart is the direct beneficiary, and right now he's not getting much ownership. Now Stewart's not like an amazing point per minute player as a big on the year, 0.93, but yeah, I mean, if let's just say Duren ends up being, I don't know, 35% owned, he gets in early foul trouble. You click Isaiah Stewart at 5%. Like that is something that could win you a tournament. So right now he's getting basically no ownership. So yeah, on a small slate, that's like a play that I'm totally fine making with an unowned 3.4K Isaiah Stewart.
That's what I like to hear. Now we got to get to this trash Bulls team. They are like extra special, not good right now. I can't believe how bad they are at doing everything they try to do. Unfortunately for us, though, the Chicago Bulls are currently the most owned team on DraftKings. We've got 30% ownership coming into Matas Buzelis. We've got 25 coming into Kobe White. We've got 20 to Vooch, Desunmu. We've got 15 to Jalen Smith and Josh Giddey. We've got 10 to Patrick Williams and Kevin Huerter. Start wherever you would like for Chicago because obviously they're getting ownership. It's a pretty nice matchup. Total's awesome. There's minutes to go around. They're still redistributing everything since Zach LaVine is no longer on the team. What do you like the most from the Bulls?
So I guess let's start with the guy getting the most ownership right now. That's going to be Buzelis. He's 4.8K. I think he has a pretty secure role right now in the starting lineup. So last game was a blowout. He ended up getting pulled there. He lost the last 4 minutes. He was on pace to play 33 minutes. The game before that was a blowout, and he actually closed in a blowout. So, like, I think they just want to give him minutes, that being Buzelis. He even talked about, him having a bit more of a playmaking role. We haven't seen that a ton. I mean, we saw 5 assists last game, but yeah, I think right now, like, his role is pretty secure. I think you're expecting around 30 minutes. Could be a little bit more, though, depending if he plays well. So 4.8K, I think he stands out as a good point per dollar option. So yeah, I like Buzelis. The other guys getting ownership. You got Kobe White, you got Vooch, you got Io, all kind of hovering around 20%. Sub 8K Vooch, I think is going a bit under owned right now. Now, the downside with Vooch is the minute ceiling, right? Just because Jalen Smith has been playing well off the bench. So like you don't really have, 35 plus minutes, I don't think, in the range of outcomes for Vooch. You're probably expecting low 30s minutes for him, but let me bring up his rates real quick with LaVine off the court. So on the year, Vooch is 1.27 fancy point per minute player. If you take LaVine off, let's say, that bumps him to actually goes down a little bit, but Yeah.
Okay.
So Vooch, again, the downside really is the minutes ceiling, but I think he will be pretty productive when he's out there. Kobe White and Io, 6-7 for Kobe White, 5-4 for Io. I'm kind of indifferent on those two. Io hasn't been playing the best recently, but minutes are relatively secure. I think you're probably expecting 30 plus minutes from him. Kobe White at 6.7K should play low to mid 30s minutes. So I think those two guys are reasonable options. Giddy is coming in around 10%, only 7.3K. That is someone I think I would be willing to get overweight to. We know Josh Giddey's a pretty good point per minute player. He's played 30 plus minutes actually in each of the last 5 games. So like earlier in the year, the issue with Josh Giddey was just that, the minutes fluctuated for him. There are games we didn't close. But with Levine shipped out of there, with Lonzo out, I think you're going to feel a bit, a bit better about Giddey's minutes. So I think he's going a bit under owned and someone that I do like for tournaments. You mentioned Jalen Smith. He's coming in around 15%. Again, I think he's a pretty similar play to Isaiah Stewart. So if he's going to be 3x the ownership of Stewart, I think Stewart is someone that I would prefer in tournaments. And then we have to talk about the newly acquired options as well. That would be Herter and Trey Jones. Kevin Herter, 3.4K, played 18 minutes off the bench in his first game. Did not shoot well, or 19 minutes, I should say. But if he's going to play around 20 minutes and not get much ownership, like I think he is someone that I like in tournaments. And I even like Trey Jones. They said that they want to give Trey Jones more run here. He played 18 minutes in his first game with Chicago. So I think those two, Jones and Herter, are actually interesting value options right now, not getting much love.
Herter's intriguing to me. I feel like Trey Jones is never going to fall into enough minutes, but Kevin Herter could just be from like a size perspective. Could be wrong. Herter, not a bad per minute guy. If I find him intriguing today, I'm with you on the White Dosunmu dynamic. I have a hard time separating those guys because you get the cheaper price tag on Dosunmu, which makes up for the fact that he's not as good of a per minute dude. They just both look very similar to me relative to their salaries. Buzelis is my guy here. I've got a ton of him way over the field. Seems like he's just going to be playing big minutes. I expect his salary to be a lot higher like a week from now after he's played, a week and a half, 2 weeks of just 30, 32 minutes, whatever. Bloom seems to be off the rose a little bit for Patrick Williams at this point, but they're really happy they signed him to the 5-year, $90 million extension in the offseason. And then Giddy's just sort of giddy. Really good per minute dude. Never a guy that I think is super interesting when his salary's stable, but like a perfectly reasonable 15 to 20%er for today. There's a lot to like for the Bulls. I get it. This matchup's really nice. There is a fantastic portfolio EV play on Nikola Vucevic. Under 1.5 threes made, plus 125, 6 OddsShopper rating on Fliff, if that's where you like to hang out. And then not a bad matchup for Vooch post-ups, oddly enough. You would think Durham might be a little bit better there, but grades out kind of well for a potential post-up matchup for Nikola Vucevic. So we'll see how that ends up shaking out. It is Vooch, after all. Not a guy that I'm fond of.
This Bulls team just again, it's just shocking that they didn't make another move before the deadline. And they have it doesn't have all point guards and bigs, and that's it feels like. So just the roster doesn't make any sense. The fact that they didn't move Vooch or Lonzo before the this whole team is just a mess.
I can't believe they do anything that they do. It makes no sense pretty much ever.
Yep.
Stupid Bulls. Stupid Bulls. So I've been mentioning the portfolio EV tool throughout most of this show. Maybe you guys want to use it on your own. Do a little sports betting or pick'em sites. You could do that. You can get it for a week for free if you've never signed up for it before. Link in the description. Hopefully we get one in chat as well. There's nothing crazy to this one. It's just click the link, sign up, and get a trial for a week. We give you projected EV, projected win rates. You can put your bankroll size in there. It'll size up all of your bets for you. We have parlay builders and odds boost calculators. We do this for pick'em sites and sportsbooks. Shop around for the best line. We've got live odds screens and advanced data if you want to dig into it. You can go through all of our historical data, find the best angle you want, build a portfolio for it, and then get notifications anytime any bets match that portfolio. It really doesn't get any easier. The tool has been working fantastic. I'm sure you'll see plenty of testimonials pop up on the screen as we're showing you that you can get this for 7 days. So just do it. Click the link, sign up, Zero risk to you, and I think you're going to love it. Final game of the day, 10 o'clock start, 2 hours after Detroit and Chicago. Interesting late swap dynamic, even though we don't really have any news that we're waiting on for this game, which is kind of annoying, although helpful because Memphis is fucking annoying. Zach Edey is available. Marvin Bagley, Johnny Davis, not going to make it for this one for Memphis. Yes, those two guys are on the Grizzlies now, just in case you were curious. Grayson Allen is probable for the Suns. Bradley Beal is already out. Oso Ighodaro is with the G League team. And Cody Martin not going to be available. Vasily Micic, though, questionable. Don't know how they're going to use him. We're getting 20% ownership to Desmond Bane at 7,500. And then we're getting 10 to 15 on Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja Morant, Santi Aldama, and Vince Williams still, which is going to need a conversation. And then like a little bit to Gigi Jackson and Brandon Clark. I do think Desmond Bane looks pretty clearly like the best option for Memphis. I've got quite a bit. How do you see Bane?
Yeah, so 7.5K for Desmond Bane. I think stands as a pretty good option here in the mid-range. He played 36 minutes there against Oklahoma City. I don't know if you project him for that, but definitely low to mid-30s for Bane. So, yeah, I think he stands out as a pretty good point per hour option. The guy that I really like, though, in tournaments, and probably right now my favorite tournament play of the slate, is going to be an $8,600 Ja Morant. So, I was a little bit tilted last game because I thought you would get a bump in minutes for Ja. Against good teams, Memphis does tend to extend their guys a little bit. He played 36 minutes against the Thunder. He did not shoot well, shot 6 of 19. So that tilted me a bit because the previous games were all blowouts for Memphis, right? You played 25 there against Toronto, blowout. 29 against San Antonio, blowout. 27 against the Knicks, blowout. 26 against Utah, blowout. So, I don't think you project Ja for 36 minutes, but it's good to see that he played that last game. And this is a really good matchup against Phoenix as well. On the year, Ja Morant is a 1.37 fantasy point per minute player. So, if he's going to get basically no ownership right now, sub 10%, I think at the moment he is my favorite tournament play of the slate.
I like it. I like the shout. I might lean Maxey in that scenario, but I think we're looking at it in the exact same way. Just quality point guard under-owned compared to some of the other point guards that are pulling ownership. I could go either direction, whether it's Morant or Maxey in this case. Obviously, Morant a little bit more cost-effective. Minutes upside looks good, too. You could squeeze a little bit more out of him than you normally would, but I like the direction you're going there. We're on the same page.
Yep. Yeah. So, really like Ja, obviously. Jaren at 8.1K, coming in around 10% ownership. Obviously he's a guy that, they can close small with. He can play some at the 5. So I think he's also gone a little bit underrepresented as well. So those two, I like a good amount for tournaments. Vince Williams is another guy getting ownership around 10%. That one definitely scares me. He's not going to be a great point per minute player playing alongside, Ja and Jaren and Bane. So he played like 15 minutes last game, but Memphis, they just have a lot of guys that he doesn't even have to play 15 minutes again. They could throw minutes elsewhere. Jalen Wells in that game only played 12 minutes. He could very easily play more. So the ownership on Vince Williams definitely scares me a little bit.
Miles Turner out.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of what we were expecting. So Bryant should start at the 5.
Yeah. I don't understand any of that ownership on Vince Williams. Yes. Do I think he's going to get more minutes eventually? I do. He's played 4 games this year. I don't expect it to be today. I guess in theory it could be, but I am not trying to race out in front to get the first day Vince Williams plays 20 minutes. That seems weird. I find Memphis just really odd to get to. How do you feel great about Aldama or Jackson or Clark? It all just feels so random to me. I'm going to have a little bit of all of these guys, but it doesn't make me excited. I do think Jaren Jackson's a little underrepresented. I agree with you that Morant is probably a little underrepresented. I like their big 3 a lot more than the love they're getting in the ownership.
Yes. Yeah, I'm in agreement there. And then, some of the secondary pieces, again, the minutes are kind of hard to nail down in some of these guys, but another guy I wanted to mention, Zach Edey's currently getting no ownership. He's 4.8K. He didn't play much against Oklahoma City, but I think that's kind of expected. Against Toronto and San Antonio, played 25 minutes. Edey, solid point per minute. So I think I have more interest right now in him than the current 2% ownership. Aldama's like another one of those guys where the minutes fluctuate, but he's not a bad point per minute player either. So those two I think are in play for tournaments because if they find their way into a few extra minutes, they can have a pretty solid game. GG is really the only other guy to mention. He's played 20 plus minutes in each of the last 3 games. Again, just a filler option for me at 3.9K. Not someone I'm going to go out of my way to play, but if you land on him, like I feel way more secure about the role for Jackson right now than I do for Vince Williams.
Okay. We have a 2 odd shopper rating on Jaren Jackson under 1.5 threes. Not a great historical ROI either. Everybody else is 1 or below, so I don't think we have anything too crazy here for Memphis. So that leads us to the Phoenix Suns. Again, no Bradley Beal, no Cody Martin. Vasily Micic, questionable. Can't imagine that matters, but, you'd rather hear him be out and make better decisions. 9% ownership to Devin Booker. 18 to Kevin Durant. About 10 to Royce O'Neal. About 20 to Grayson Allen, and 30 to Tyus Jones. Do you feel like Tyus Jones should be the most owned Phoenix Sun?
I do, just because I think his role is just more secure with Brad Beal out. He gets a bit of an assist bump as well. Assist percentage with Brad Beal out. Give me 1 second. So he is, I think it's around 33%, if I remember. Yeah, 32.8% assist percentage for Tyus Jones. So he's someone like when this team is fully healthy, we've seen his minutes kind of fluctuate a bit. But yeah, you have no Brad Beal. So I think you're going to feel a little bit better about the minutes for Tyus Jones. So like, I think he's the easiest guy to get to. Do I think he should be 30%? That feels a little high, but yeah, I think he's probably your best point per dollar play right now on Phoenix. What's your thoughts on Tyus?
He's the best point per dollar play on Phoenix. I will agree with you there. And I'm getting him. I'm not surprised that I'm getting him at 4,800. When Beal's not there, you just feel a little bit better about his minutes.
Yep.
It does make me feel at least a little uncomfortable, but I guess you're getting revenge narrative alert in this one too. So that's not too bad. I'd like to see Micic be out. I'd rather them just have one less option in the backcourt. I don't think they're going to be particularly loyal here. I think Booker and Durant are both a hair under-owned. Booker in particular at 9%, he kind of fits that same Tyrese Maxey realm. He's the one I'm getting over Maxey. I have 30% of Booker at this moment, 20 of Durant. I'm happy to get to those two guys more than anything else for Phoenix.
Yeah, I really like the shout on Booker. I think he's a pretty similar play to Ja. Like, again, not getting a ton of ownership either. So I like him a good amount as contrarian play as well. I think I slightly prefer Ja for a bit cheaper, but I like the shout there on Booker. Even with KD back, like Booker is still going to be a pretty good point per minute player. Like he is 1.25 on the season with Beal off the court. So yeah, I think Booker is going a bit underrepresented. KD right now, double the ownership of Booker. Again, I think those two are pretty similar plays. So if I had to pick one, discard everything else, I think I would lean Booker just who's coming in about half the ownership. But yeah, I like the call there on Booker.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end up being. I think that's my problem with Maxey. And not to mention, you've got Maxey locking at 7 o'clock. You've got this one locking at 10 o'clock. This one's just going to be better for me if I need to make any changes for Knicks Pacers or for Pistons Bulls. I don't have anything interesting to say about Royce O'Neal. He's Royce O'Neal. Put him in 10% of your lineups. That seems like it's going to be fine. But what do we do with Grayson Allen? 4,900, shooting guard, small forward. I feel like he's got a different role every day, depending on who's in and out for the Suns. Is this a day where he just plays 32 minutes and rains threes? Is this a day where we get it wrong? What do we do with Allen?
Yeah, I mean, the minutes are a little bit tough to nail down for him. Again, with KD now that back again, like Phoenix was relatively shorthanded for a bit. So I think he is fine. Maybe going a little bit overowned. I mean, he does have shooting guard, small forward eligibility, so it's a bit easier to get him into your lineups. But yeah, I don't think you're expecting 30 plus minutes from Grayson. Obviously, it definitely is in the range of outcomes. If he plays well, like you could see 32, 33 minutes. But yeah, you do have, again, KD back. Maybe Micic, again, could take away a few minutes just from him. So yeah, I think he's going slightly overowned, but I understand why he's getting some love.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see it. He does grade out really well. The position and the price are both beneficial. It's only a 4-game slate. The pace of this matchup is huge. There's a giant pace up spot for Phoenix. So all that stuff makes sense to me. I was A little surprised to see it be as high as it is. Normally on days where I don't get him, he makes like 6 first quarter threes and I'm just dead the moment it happens. And
Yep.
normally the days that I play him, he's 0 for 11 from 3 in the first half and I want to die. So I assume today he's going to make every 3 that he takes. That seems like the most likely scenario for me at this point.
Yep. And then really the only guys to mention for Phoenix would be the bigs. I don't have a ton of Anderson, Richards, or Plumlee. I think this is a game that both teams will probably close small. We've seen Phoenix close small ball. I think Memphis could definitely just close with Jaren at the 5. So 5.1K Richards, 3.8K Plumlee. I don't have much interest in either of them. You did see a couple decent games for Bol over the last few games. But again, that was when the team was definitely more shorthanded. So even though he played well, he's not really someone I'm expecting a lot of run from here.
Now I'm guessing those minutes go away now that Durant is back. 4 games up, 4 games down. I really do like this slate. I might regret saying that in an hour, but for a 4-gamer, we've got some interesting spots and like plenty of different places where you can make a unique lineup.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement here. I really like this slate, and usually when I do, things go horribly wrong. So I'll probably end up losing all my money. But yeah, right now, a 4-game slate, I think this is a solid one.
There we go. DK, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, DK__DFS, or on YouTube, DK DFS, doing prop content as well as daily fantasy sports.
There we go, everybody. Deeper Dive is done. We're at 326 likes, 2,000 viewers. Let's see if we could run that number up to 400 before the Live Before Lock crew gets here. I'll see you guys on playback. Live Before Lock is next.
Like a true 5-year-old.
Should have had 2. One is never enough.
What is happening, everyone? Welcome to a little bit of a smaller NBA Live Before Lock, only 4 games, but don't worry. Don't worry. The NBA has not gotten rid of NBA injury news just because there's only 4 games, and we've got some important ones. Most notably, the very first game on the slate, none other than Joel Embiid. He's questionable to play, so that is going to definitely be something that Eric and I are going to be talking about over the course of the show. If you guys do us a favor while you're watching here, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do appreciate that a whole bunch. We're sponsored here by Underdog. If you guys haven't checked out Underdog yet, 50% deposit match bonus on your first deposit up to $250. Something else to keep note of is that if you sign up at Underdog from our link join page, or if you sign up for any of the other partners that we have on our link join page, you get 1 free month of Stokastic access for each one of our partners that you sign up for. So if you guys want NBA core access for the rest of the season, just I don't know how many months are left in the season at this point. I know there's only 2 months left in the regular season, but if you include the playoffs, what, like 3-4 months, something like that? Pick a few of these books to sign up for that you haven't already. You go ahead and do that. You get yourself NBA Sims access for the remainder of not just the regular season, but the playoffs as well. 1 free month of core access for each one of our partners that you guys sign up for. Link for that is down below in the YouTube description box. Make sure you're going through that link because that's how we know that they came from, well, that's how they know that you came from us. And that's how you get credited with your free month. So take advantage of that offer. It's a really good one. It's a really good way to get yourself on some new books, take advantage of deposit bonus offers, and then also to help build your bankroll by getting access to a Stokastic Core membership. Eric, what's happening today?
Not much. 4-game slate. As you said before, Joel Embiid news, we're kind of just sitting, waiting on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are aware. Every team in the NBA plays tomorrow. Every single one. 15 games is what we will be talking about on tomorrow's Live Before Lock. I'm already tired thinking about it, but I think Joel Embiid, we can kind of assume that he's only going to play in one of the 2 games. One of them is at home, one of them is away. I don't know if you remember the show. Yeah. It was like beginning or middle of, it was like before Christmas, but they played Charlotte on the front end of a back-to-back, and I was like, they're going to save him up for Cleveland the next night on the road. No, they did not do that. So I'm kind of under the same thinking. They play Brooklyn tomorrow in Brooklyn. If they want him to stay put, he plays today. He'll rest tomorrow. I think that's what ends up happening. How about you?
That's what I tend to think too, for a couple of reasons. Number one is I think they just prefer, just for health reasons, they prefer him being at home. I think they like to minimize some of that travel. That's a part of it. But then another part too, teams, for whatever reason, are just more inclined to rest players on the front end of the back end of the back-to-back than the front. Maybe it's because you hold out hope that, who knows, maybe it isn't, this isn't going to happen, but maybe teams hold out hope that, hey, there's no way of knowing. Maybe for some odd reason, he will be available to play tomorrow and you kind of take him out of the mix if you sit him in the first game. But just in general, we've seen veteran players get rested for back-to-backs, but they almost always do it on the tail end of back-to-backs. It really shouldn't matter. That's just kind of how teams like to approach it, Eric.
Yeah, it generally is too. I'm kind of just thinking through different iterations of it so that the news doesn't come out of left field, but I would be shocked if Joel Embiid sat today. I really would be. I think he more than likely plays. We'll deal with him out tomorrow. It's a really slow place Brooklyn spot for tomorrow, and 14 other games to be selecting through depending how DraftKings carves up their slate tomorrow. I'm sure that'll be smaller over there. FanDuel, you go get all 15. So buckle up, Buttercup.
What I hope they do tomorrow for the slate, and the contest might already be up. I haven't checked the lobby. I hope they make 2 big slates on DraftKings today.
Be awesome.
For tomorrow, I mean.
I don't know why they don't do that more, where it's like if you took the 6 p.m. game, like the Denver game that generally shows up, or a Utah game, and you combine that with like 3 in the evening, you could have like 8 and 5 on some of those like 13, 12 game slates. And the fact that they don't do that really upsets me, because I would concrete play both of those slates every single day. I think most people that are doing this, they're checking out our shows every single day, playing around with the Sims tool. You would want to make lineups for both slates every single day. So that is my push to DraftKings and FanDuel. Please, please, please think about those contests, because it would be a lot more fun to have 2 slates in one day than just 1.
So just went and looked it up, and we do have the slate up for DraftKings, 14-game slate.
Oh, my dear sweet God. Is it really?
It is a 14-game slate tomorrow. Which, yeah, here's where, looking at the games, here's what they could have done that I think would have been really fun. Make all of the 7 and 8 p.m. game. Yeah, there's enough games to do it. They could have, it wouldn't have been exactly
There are
50,
3
50.
at 6:30. Yeah. What are they doing?
Yeah, there could have been other ways. And it's not that it's the end of the world. There's a 14-game slate. It'll present us some good late swap opportunities, right? Tomorrow, doing
Yeah.
playback. That's something they could
Scoot's already
definitely
out.
do there. But yeah, I would have. It's enough games. We could have broken up into 2 slates. Could have twice as much money in play.
Can't have nice things, Greg. We can't have nice things.
Apparently we can. Or maybe we can, because Jordan, this is actually going to be the last live before lock that Eric and I do together for a little bit, because tomorrow it's Josh's 40th birthday or 50th birthday. I forget. He's really fucking old. So tomorrow it's going to be Josh's 60th birthday. So he's off tomorrow and Thursday, and then it's the NBA All-Star break. So I'm hosting live before lock the next couple of days, but you're going to be hosting the deep dive, which means we're going to be separated for a couple of days here. We're doing the playback show together on Thursday, though. But very importantly, Jordan, play the animation for the exotic play of the night.
What?
You got to open it up this way.
What?
Absolutely have to.
Oh, my lord. What are we doing? This is what we're doing?
Yep.
Look at that. Oh, Pritchard tried to get there. Tried to take people to the promised land yesterday. Tried. Yeah. A little Ruski-doo.
There we go.
Oh,
I need
Lordy.
this. I need a little pick me up. I don't know how much you paid attention to the standings yesterday, Eric. But one of the more tilting slates I've ever had.
I saw it. I saw it.
I was at the top of all of the GPPs yesterday, and then got just absolutely cucked by overtimes. I was I didn't. It's not like it completely destroyed my slate. I was still pretty profitable, but that Kings Mavericks game going to overtime, that was about a $30,000 swing for me. I was not all that thrilled about it. The only thing that would make me feel better was opening up this show with the exotic player of the night animation for us to break down what also is clearly one of your favorite parts of the show we do here. So with that in mind, Eric, who's the exotic player of the night today?
All right. This is just as disgusting as, you know what? Screw it. Jordan Klein, play the nuke of the night.
What are we? Oh my God. What is this?
Why not? You just start him right away. Right away. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like you're watching a motion picture today, everybody. 2-minute montages. It's like a high school graduation. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So it's a 4-game slate, and we're just going to fill the time by playing the different graphics packages that Brody and Jordan have worked on together for us. So, Eric, I have to assume this means that your nuke of the night is an exotic?
It is very exotic. It would be awkward if I made him play the animation without him being exotic. So, yeah, that's where we're going to be going. It is a 4-game NBA slate. And Greg, what do you think about the value that we currently have on today's slate?
Well, it depends if Joel Embiid gets ruled out or not, but as of right now, it's not great.
As of right now, it's not great. So you have to keep this with a little bit of context. So we've got an exotic in Grady Dick at the shooting guard position. He is 4,300. He's going to be pretty darn popular, but I don't know if you looked through the rotations from Chicago last game, but we got a pretty normal starting lineup. Once again, exotic Josh Giddey. We got Kobe White. We got, a number of other pieces that were kind of intermixed into the lineups, but there was one glaring omission here, and we do have something a little bit different because Talen Horton-Tucker was available last game, and he still didn't play. And why is that? Because new exotic Kevin Huerter came off the bench first with Mr. Patrick Williams, and they were the first 2 subs in for the game. He shot the ball horrendously, terribly, horribly, no good, very bad, but he played 19 minutes. He was the only guard who finished better than a -8 in terms of plus minus. It was his debut with these Chicago Bulls. And if you're trying to get different in a GPP and you're trying to win yourself 100K today, how about mixing in some high upside guys? And I don't expect Kevin Huerter's usage to sit around 16.5, 17% like it was in Sacramento earlier this season. I think we see it closer to the 20% number. He's had a terrible, horrible season shooting the basketball as well. I think positive regression due in a new environment for when Kevin Huerter at 3,400, your nuke and exotic of the night.
Look at that. Double dipping. Double dipping is Eric there. So Eric is gone with somebody from in Kevin Herter, who I don't hate the logic there, right? It's also, especially because it's a smaller slate. If he's going to be one of the first guys off the bench again, if he makes those shots, then yeah, he's going to earn himself some extended playing time there. For myself, boy, there's a couple of different directions that I could go here. See, what is Herter? Herter's projected ownership 8%. So I don't want to go too crazy popular right now, but I'll go somebody who's kind of top of mind for us right now, Eric. This is a slate where, like you said, not a ton of value to be had here. Joel Embiid is 16% owned at 10K in a matchup against the Toronto Raptors. He's currently the most rostered spend up option on the slate. And yeah, right now we have some concerns whether he's going to be in, whether he's going to be out. But this is going to be a game where, like, assuming he plays, he's not going to play tomorrow. Then he's going to have all of the All-Star break off. I think there's a pretty good chance we just see a full workload from Joel Embiid. How we saw the other day, Joel Embiid hadn't played, what was it, like a month or something? They had him play well over 30 minutes in his first game back. So if there's going to be no kind of restrictions on Joel Embiid, he's in a great matchup. He's only 10K. I don't really quite understand why he's as low owned as he is.
Because of the question mark next to his name. And if we didn't have him questionable, I'm under the assumption he would be a lot more popular because we've had a lot of these slates where he's been a lot more popular. There's also a guy in Karl Anthony Towns where we got to wait and see if OG Anunoby, I mean, that's kind of an interesting one to me as far as like what his minutes allotment would be. That's a Q tag that we're still sitting here waiting on. So like, I think if you get Precious Achiuwa starting next to Karl Anthony Towns, that's not as ideal. But if you get OG out there, Karl Anthony Towns rebound rate, I suppose, there's worlds where Precious Achiuwa just becomes like your backup 5 and then plays some 4 next to him there for around 22, 24 minutes. But I'm with you. I think Joel Embiid probably the most intriguing of the spend ups purely because of a glaring Q tag next to his name.
Yeah, and just that low ownership there as well. And we should find out in short order whether he is going to be in or whether he's going to be out. We got some questions that are coming into us from the Discord channel right now. And then also, if you guys have any super chats for us, you can leave those in. But Discord, let's see what you guys have for us. Coach DFS wants to know DK cash game plays. He did ask sometime after the 6:30 p.m. He asked for a post Embiid news. Let's answer it for now, because I do think Embiid plays. We will pivot. If we do find out that Embiid is out, we'll circle back to this and give any kind of updates and how that otherwise would change some of the cash game options. But as things are standing right now, Eric, who are you considering the must plays in cash games?
Yeah, quickly at 6,100 now that he can play 30 minutes is kind of a big deal. There's ways that I'm trying to get lower on that. I mean, point guard is so stacked because you have spend ups galore. You've got John Morant and Jalen Brunson that I think are both awesome tournament options. But from a cash perspective, 6,100 for 30 minutes of Emmanuel Quickly feels pretty difficult to give up with some of his rates. He's got the higher assist rate between him and Scotty Barnes, things of that nature. I also just said it, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. I think both Knicks, just because of what those minutes are on a day in, day out basis, make it hard to get away from. I think now's where it gets a little bit more difficult. Josh Hart, if you just want to like get all of the Knicks and hope that, you know, they keep that game competitive, you're going to get 40 minutes, 38, 40 minutes. I mean, Tom Thibodeau right before like the All-Star break, and then knowing that he can just like push these dudes that this is their back-to-back, and then it's done until they come back on Friday. They don't play again until next Friday. I mean, Tom Thibodeau could run these dudes into the ground if he really wanted to. OG Anunoby, I don't know if you can run him into the ground, so that's up for discussion. But those three, Brunson, Cat, Hart, I'd probably want to play 2 of the 3 of them. Emmanuel Quickly, I'll give you those 4.
Yeah, so one other thing to consider as well, because we do have Anunoby official list is questionable. He's out in our projections. The general expectation is that Anunoby is not going to play. Often when players are questionable, we leave them in our projections. But once again, the popular thought here is that Anunoby isn't going to play. So that is going to inform some of this. Just want to let you guys know that we do have him out in our projections. And if that was to change where he gets ruled in, then it's something we'd have to adjust for. But I agree with you. Certainly Quickly, because of the right now absence of Anunoby in our projections, Brunson and Cat both look really good. Tyus Jones, somebody else at $4,800. Yeah, I'll consider those 4 the must plays for me in cash games. Definitely a little bit scary with the potential maybe for a blowout in the Knicks game, but yeah, I think that's what I'm going. Well, actually, I mean, the spread's only 3 points because
I was going to say I have no concern for that. I mean, that's I mean, we've got
just out of the
pretty
corner of
good.
my eye, I saw the 9.5 point spread, and then I realized that was for the Philly game, not the Knicks game. So
Yeah,
Knicks,
the other 3 games are all competitive or
Yeah.
should be competitive, so that'll be fun.
All right. Let's see what else we have for questions here. The next one, it is from a bunch of them. Okay. We have here a question from Coach DFS, the cocaine play of the day. All right, who's getting you excited tonight, Eric? Who's gonna have? I forget exactly what it was we did for this bit the last time it came around. It's been a few days, but who are we excited for? Who's amping you up tonight? There we go.
I mean, my other nuke of the night potential play.
What?
Why?
Well, because you were excited. That was the time you did the show on cocaine, and you were, chopping it up.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, yeah. No, isn't it?
Yeah, it's how you cut it.
Man, those are crazy times. I think most of those were in Europe. Anyway, it was a midnight 1 a.m. show, whatever. Either way, I look at
by the way, sorry. This is what it is. Justin Sport. It's the player we want to give a bump to in projections. That's what the bid is supposed to be. Couldn't remember it. Couldn't remember it. We've really piled up a bunch of these. So which player do we want to boost in the Sims? That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, there's one guy that I think is really interesting. I mean, how many bodies does Memphis have that they're going to play on a daily night? Are they going to really play like 10, 11, 12 dudes every single time out, Greg?
They might.
It's really annoying because there are always these 246, 247 totals. They're the fastest paced team in the NBA. John Morant has them running at ludicrous speed. Spaceballs, people, enjoy that one. But I think GG Jackson is probably somebody just because of the positionality that I want to give a little bit of a bump to. We had him pretty low as far as optimal goes, but he's traditionally been a good fantasy performer. He can play himself into closing rotations. He can do things over Jalen Wells, and I think he's just the more enthusiastic fantasy performer of the two. And I think that when you look at that straight up, like, I never know what the minutes are going to be, but I think it's like a floor of 18-20, which is still okay at 4K. And if he performs well, he probably has a chance of surpassing that. He closed and played 28 minutes the other night, 2 previous to it. 0.96 DraftKings points per minute player. I mean, that's the really hard thing, is that these guys are all insane fantasy performers from Memphis. John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, Zach Edey, Santi Aldama, Scottie Pippen Jr., Jay Huff, Marcus Smart is gone, GG Jackson, Vince Williams Jr., Brandon Clark. They are all 0.95 or better DraftKings points per performer. So on its short slates, I kind of look at a team like that and I just say, take random shots. GG Jackson, I'm going to probably bump a little bit.
I'm going to go with Obi Toppin. I know we've seen the Pacers gravitate more towards Thomas Bryant in a lot of games, but with that said, we've got no Miles Turner out there again for this team again today. And there was a point not all that long ago where if Miles Turner was out, maybe Obi Toppin didn't start, but we would more gravitate towards Obi Toppin over whoever was the starting center for the Indiana Pacers. Thomas Bryant's been okay as a starter. It's not like he's been, blowing our dicks off or anything like that. I think there's a real opportunity here for Obi Toppin to be the closing big man for the Indiana Pacers. And, he's picking up some ownership by the field. It's only a 4-game slate, but he's somebody who I think is pretty significant upside at $4,400 on a slate without very much good value.
Yeah, I don't mind that call as well. I mean, there's other considerations. I think this is a great slate purely because, if you can get away from a couple of the uniform pieces of chalk and you can get onto a piece like an Obi Toppin, who, again, what is the common theme of who we're talking about? They're guys who are good fantasy performers that if they play well and walk themselves into more minutes, you're going to kind of need them. And even at 21% ownership, I don't think he's as high owned as what he'll be in my finishing. And I had 32%, I think, in my first run. I like the Obi Toppin call. I'm also going to have some Thomas Bryant just because, I do think he's still going to get a pretty clear lion's share of the center minutes, but I don't hate that call whatsoever.
Yeah, so Obi Toppin, he's somebody who I have a good amount of overweight to the field too. Not like he's in half my lineups or anything, but he's been about a third of them now at right around 20% ownership. So I like getting to Obi Toppin as a little bit of a contrarian option. The next question that we have in Discord here, and by the way, thank you very much as well by Coach DFS for, I need a list. We're piling up so many of these bits. I need a list of them so I don't forget what they are as we go along.
Maybe next Christmas I'll get you a dictionary of just our ridiculous themes, and we can like literally just, I don't know, open it to a page and it's like, here you go. It's the stupid come play of the day, which is, not a play yet.
Is that going to be the next one?
I don't know. I'm just making up just the most ludicrous type plays that I always see in the chat. I mean,
that could be the player's going to blow up in your face and ruin the slate, something like that. Put it in the dictionary. Put it in the dictionary.
DICK TIONARY.
We've got Snips 1234. He wants to. Oh, actually, we got two of these questions right in a row. Snips 1234, as well as Krebsy, wants to know what it is that we were doing with Asar Thompson today. Two of these questions at the exact same time. People asking us about Asar Thompson. Let's see. Asar
it's
Thompson.
Saw, not Livio Saw. It's a Harry Potter joke. Sorry.
I don't know enough Harry Potter. I don't know enough.
Or Wizard Harry. 5,100 for Asar. He's just a dude who's showing up in lineups. Like, that's the exact reason that I like some of these small forwards like GG Jackson, mixing them in for a little bit cheaper. If they go out and beat them, sweet. You're bypassing a lot of the field. Like 16, 17% Thompson. I think that's about appropriate. I probably don't have any stand when it's all said and done. If I end up with a little bit more, a little bit less, I'll just kind of let the Sims tool do its deal. But I've made some calculated decisions elsewhere in my lineups that I think, like, if I don't get to Asar Thompson, I won't be heartbroken about it.
So the main issue with Asar Thompson is that his price point has gone up. And part of it was because when it started, we had that day where Cade was a late scratch, right? And then a lot of the players from Detroit became more expensive after that.
Mm-hmm.
And Thompson's price point never really went down. So he was a few $100s cheaper than this. When we first had that game, he's gotten more expensive. So yeah, it's a good matchup against the Chicago Bulls, but he's still kind of priced up to an extent from when we saw that time that Cade was out. And the other thing too, when it comes to Thompson, is as great of a fantasy producer he is, and also great defender in real life, his minutes are just not all that stable, which really makes it hard to project him crazy well. He played really well last game, but only got 23 minutes. The game before, 27 and a half minutes, 27 minutes. It's really hard to just say like, hey, I think this guy plays 30 plus minutes, and when his price point's gone up, it's a little bit of a tough sell for me. If he's in a lineup or two, totally fine. Like Eric said, the price is about appropriate, just not somebody I could be prioritizing.
Yeah, I think Detroit is going to be a headache the rest of the way in. And here's the main reason why. I think we're never going to know who they're going to close with. When they go and get a guy like Dennis Schroeder, and he only plays 15 minutes, and we're all feeling, oh, he only played 15 minutes. Dennis Schroeder is going to play more than 15 minutes sooner rather than later. I don't want to play him in DFS because, like, I don't know if 22 is even on the table. He's 4,500, and he's going to be playing alongside Cade Cunningham. Kind of want to see where that where that ends up rounding out to be. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has been playing like 30 minutes. There's no reason that they can't go defense and go Dennis Schroeder. Tim Hardaway Jr. is still shit on the defensive end. Like, they can go to Schroeder. And then let's say that they need more offense. I think Dennis Schroeder can be that guy over Asar Thompson as well. So I think Detroit might be more of a headache going forward for us than what we think.
Here we've got a question from our own news god, Allegra Loco. So news god wants to know, who is the lotion play of the night? Boy, 4 games play, we really got to bust all of the bits.
The lotion goes on the skin.
There it is. Eric in full handsome form right there. Eric, who's going to put the ball in the bucket? Who's the lotion play of the night?
Fulton. God, it's hard to not have it be Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's just going to do terrible, horrible, no good, very bad things to Tyrese Halliburton. Joel Embiid will play.
Is in. All right, I think that's a sign, because I've already mentioned Joel Embiid here, but relative to ownership and everything, Joel Embiid is my favorite pay-up option on the slate. We do have the confirmation that he's going to be in. He's modestly owned at 16%. Maybe that changes now that he's been confirmed in. We'll be keeping an eye on what our projections are doing here. But yeah, I like being overweight to Joel Embiid here. He's my favorite pay-up option on the slate. He's got to be my answer.
Yeah, I don't mind that whatsoever.
And the next question that we have here, it is from Mr. Cool Cam wants to know favorite plays at each position for a FanDuel GPP. Eric, do you have lineups built out for FanDuel and DraftKings?
See, these are the kind of bits that we need to have. Why is this not just called? He could just put Kama Sutra in the comment section, and then it could be like us going position by position. That's funny. Like something like that is funny.
It could certainly be. Jordan, take note. Eric's doing your job for you. New segments.
Just trying to innovate. It's all about innovation,
go.
Jordan.
Jordan, take notes. Write that down. Jot it down.
Yeah.
Right, favorite plays at each position for a FanDuel GPP.
Yep.
I've got FanDuel pulled up right now. Eric, do you FanDuel apps in front of you? If not, I can just do it.
I'm playing both today.
Okay, cool. So starting at point guard, that is going to be the aforementioned Jalen Brunson for me.
Same Z's.
At shooting guard over on FanDuel. But I've got a lot of guys that I kind of get to similar amounts of ownership. So I'll just pick the lowest owned one who I have around this range for me in terms of being in over 30% of my lineups, Agbaji.
Yeah, I have IO the most by far. Okay. I think Kevin Huerter's interesting over there for what it's worth. I have 20% Kevin Huerter.
Okay. Stick with this guy, Kevin Huerter. Small forward, Josh Hart.
It is Grayson Allen for me.
Power forward. This is very contingent on confirmation that there is no OG Anunoby, but assuming he's out and that Precious Achiuwa starts, it's Achiuwa for me.
Yeah, it'll probably end up being Josh Hart. Josh Hart for me.
And then at center, Joel Embiid, who's only 7% owned on FanDuel.
Wait, what? 7%. Vooch is my highest right now. I probably won't have that be the case come the lock.
All right, so there we have it, Mr. Cool Cam. Thank you very much for the question. Travis Pash, by the way, is saying that he would watch every day for the come play of the day. Well, it seems like if that's what it is that you're watching for, you're probably already here. But noted. It is noted. Hey, I'm Drew 95 says he can't watch. Okay, I'll just respond in chat because he says he can't watch. Captain Akella wants to know, should we skip the first game tonight? No.
It's a 4-game slate. No.
Yeah, and also we're not even really waiting on news. Like OG Anunoby is officially questionable, but we already have him out in our projections. I don't really see all that much changing post lock.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, starting lineups might be a little bit wonky. We got news that Mogbo is starting here at center for Toronto. I thought that was something that could go either way. We're obviously going to wait on the OG news. We've already kind of made a stance for it in our projections. I don't know what it is. Like, there's something that tells me Memphis and Phoenix is just going to go small immediately, and Zach Edey and Nick Richards are just going to disappear into the midnight sky in the desert. But, like, I can't really account for it, and I think they both start. So, for me, it's more of just, like, calculated stances on specific parts of games. But, I mean, Chicago, we've kind of seen the same starting lineup. Same thing with Detroit. We've seen the starting lineups here for a while. For New York now, absent OG Anunoby. Yeah, we're not really waiting on anything anymore. I guess the only other confirmation would be Philadelphia. Do they continue to start Justin Edwards now that they switched that and Yabusele is coming off the bench? That's just something to double check.
Yeah, it's something that it wouldn't have a massive impact on my lineups, but with it only being a 4-game slate, it could make somebody like, show up in 8% of lineups instead of 3% or something.
Yeah, agreed.
The next question that we have here is from, well, actually kind of related to that. There are a couple other questions sitting here. So there aren't any games that we want to skip, but is there a particular game you are less interested in than the other games on the slate?
Yeah, it's pretty clear cut. Outside of like Joel Embiid, I don't find that Toronto Philly game to be as fun for anybody involved. Agbaji is somebody that's showing up quite a bit in the Sims tool. We got him confirmed starting as well. I think that that's just fine, but I look at the game environments that we have elsewhere on the slate: Chicago, Phoenix, Indy. They're all going to be pushing that pace. New York offensive rating is what it is, but we've got 3 games that are like in the 240s. Again, we still play a salary-based game, an ownership-based game. So I'm going to get to Toronto, Philly in different lineups, but I don't want to get to a full allotment. Like 50% Agbaji is a little bit ridiculous for me right now. Probably need to tone that down and just kind of go to some of these other game environments. And that's where all these pieces that we're talking about mixing in that aren't necessarily all that chalky, getting some small forwards, power forwards that are off the reservation makes a little more sense.
All right. And now the next question, it is from, I hate when it does this, just Slack random or Discord randomly giving me my notifications out of order for no reason at all.
Yeah.
All right. Because I'm getting questions about Diabate from last night now, which went pretty well. Diabate ended up going really, really well last night.
Yeah.
He kind of broke the slate, but really would have broke the slate if he didn't hurt his eye. Finished with like
dumb
38 fantasy points or something. But let's see. The next one here. Cream wants to know, who is the most popular player that we are avoiding?
Ooh, it's always interesting.
There's nobody, I'll say this to open up. There are players that I'm going to be underweight to here, but there's nobody that's super popular that I have 0% exposure to. So it depends exactly what you mean by avoiding, but just want to say that.
Yeah, I don't have any Andrew Nemhard. I'm going through I think he's the most popular at 8.5% that I just have 0 of that I'm looking through my lineups.
Yeah, let's see. I don't know. Give me like a good ownership threshold here.
Yeah, I mean 8, 10. If you're making 20 lineups, you're probably going to get to most of the guys and intermixing most of the guys that are 10, 15% owned still within that allotment. I'll make the cutoff 8% for you.
Okay.
8 or lower.
Okay, here's how I'll answer this. So, not somebody who's out of my player pool, but somebody who have about half as much as the field is Cade Cunningham. The reason being is that I like getting overweight to say Joel Embiid, like I mentioned before, but then also there's a lot of good point guard options. The 2 most popular players on the slate, and I think it's actually 3 of the 4 most popular plays on the slate, all justified, in my opinion, are point guards. By the way, we got the starting lineup here. Maxey, Oubre, Edwards, George, and Embiid. That's your starting 5 for the 76ers. But with the 3 of the 4 most popular plays being Quickly, Brunson, and Tyus Jones, and then I also like spending up for Joel Embiid, Cade kind of gets squeezed out of my lineups where I have a little bit over 10% of him, where he's pulling 25% ownership. So I'm underweight to the field on Cade.
Yeah, Cade is uncomfortable for me. I have 5% of him. So I'm in the same boat as you. He's 25% owned, but I don't have 0 of him.
All right. The next question that we have here, it is, and yes, I saw the unnecessarily horny super chat from a 7-year-old EMAC. I know Josh is catching up to him in age starting tomorrow, but I'm very excited to read EMAC's super chat that he left for us. But before we get there, we do have Scripps asking us, Josh Giddey. How do we feel about Josh Giddey tonight, Josh? I mean, Eric.
Do not call me Josh Giddey. Don't call me Josh Engleman for what it's worth. Happy birthday, Josh. I'm going to be going to let me just take a look rather than just saying shit. I have 0 Josh Giddey. So there you go. That's my new one. That's my new most popular guy that's on the slate. I mean, Chicago doesn't get the benefit of the pace up spot the same way that Detroit does. So it's just kind of what it is. I think it's more efficient for him there. I just have no Giddey.
Yeah, so Giddey, I like him on FanDuel at his price point. DraftKings, I only have a few lineups with him. So I don't know if he asked us. Yeah, he didn't give a specific site. He showed up in a decent amount of lineups for me on FanDuel, not as much on DraftKings. Jaw1224 says, if we could only get overweight to the field to one of Towns or Cade, who are we choosing? Cat for me.
Cat.
And also the reasoning for me being underweight to the field on Cade, it's not that I think he's awful tonight or anything like that. It's just that he plays the position that has the most value. And I think the most under-owned players happen to be big men. So that's just kind of what ends up making it so that I have a little bit more than 10% of Cade, whereas I get to, guys like Cat and guys like Joel Embiid in a much higher percentage of my lineups.
Yeah, but I mean, look at it. It's sub 9K Morant, sub 9K Jalen Brunson. I mean, there's just so many good plays at point guard where I can kind of put that money towards something else. And as you said before, I think Joel Embiid is on a tier of his own at center, like a complete tier. And I get Cat is projected really well. And Joel Embiid's like a fantasy 1.5 difference there, but we're talking an ownership difference of half. Joel Embiid is drastically underowned in our projections relative to what he should be.
Next question, Zachary Williamson wants to know, and the guy you just brought up there, John Morant, is he a contrarian option that you are liking to get different with? So once again, my favorite contrarian pay up option, it's Joel Embiid. But John Morant, I don't think is a bad secondary pay up option. His minutes have also been really hard to figure out this year because he's a guy who the Grizzlies have been extremely cautious with. If you look at Morant overall for the season, he's averaging under 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's what it is. He played 36 last time out, which has me voting more in the camp of like, play a little John Morant now. Also, again, every single team is on the slate for tomorrow. Every team in the NBA is playing. I think there's a world where they just rest John Morant, and there's a world where he ends up playing a little bit more. It's a really tough matchup against the Clippers in LA tomorrow. I'm of the mind that he plays more potentially tonight than expected. I'm really circling his props, and I got like, I think he was at 20.5 points. Ended up taking a look at that earlier and was going to just hammer it, but looks like it's just kind of staying pat, and I didn't know why. I just kind of want to make sure that he's playing basketball tonight for some pickup cards, and I'm probably going to involve him in some stuff. But John Morant could be playing 32, 34 minutes tonight and resting tomorrow. I could see a number of Memphis pieces resting tomorrow.
It's kind of interesting now because I'm looking through Morant's games, and yeah, he played 36 minutes last game. If you look at the games prior to that, Eric, he played 25 minutes against Toronto, but they won by 31, so he doesn't close that game. The game before that, they play against the Spurs. He plays 29 minutes, but they win by 19. He doesn't close that game. The game he played before that, they lose to the Knicks by 37 points, so he doesn't close the fourth quarter. The game before that, they play against the Jazz. They won that game by 22 points. He doesn't close the fourth quarter. I thought maybe there's more upside to John Morant than what first meets the eye, just because, like you said, 36 minutes last game, and I'm looking at his minutes overall for the season. Like, yeah, they have been much lower than they've been in the past, but I didn't realize how many of their games have been blowouts recently. Last game was the first time. I'll let you guess this. When do you think was the last time John Morant had played in a competitive game before the last game?
I don't know. He's missed some random games in between, I can tell you, because I've traditionally bet when I thought he was going to rest, been correct, and still gotten punished with like 7 points of CLV because Luke Kennard shoots 65% from the floor every freaking time. But other than that, and me being mad about it, I would say like a month ago.
Not quite a month, but not all that far off either. It was January 20th. So, I mean, you're looking at 3 weeks between competitive games. It's definitely a little bit concerning that Morant is going to be playing again tomorrow. If they want to play on both legs, maybe they just kind of are cautious with his minutes on both ends. But I think there's probably more upside to John Morant than's first being realized when I'm looking more into his minutes, because there's no reason he should have played bigger minutes in these games. Like, they're all 30, 40-point games. The Grizzlies have just played in a ton of non-competitive games as of late. And then, like you said, the other competitive games they played, he was out for it. He missed some of those random games. So, yeah, I think John Morant is a viable GPP option based on that.
Yeah, I liked him. Again, Jalen Brunson, I'm not splitting exposure between the two, but they're definitely the 2-point guards in this 8K range that I have the most of looking at my lineups. Like, that's the difficult part about Cade Cunningham. So when I have 5% Cade Cunningham, it's not because I don't want Cade Cunningham. He could put up 70 and make me feel like an idiot, but John Morant's in a great game environment. And what I said before is like, I'm kind of keeping that one close to the vest from a prop perspective, mainly because like, if I post it, put it online, don't want it to get jammed. But like, there's a world where he plays 34 minutes tonight and just gets rested tomorrow. I think that's the most likely outcome, just because they've had functional backups in Luke Kennard, Scottie Pippen Jr. There's ways that they can do that. And it's a really tough Clippers spot on the back-to-back.
Let's see. I saw we had some super chats that came in here as well. And if you guys haven't done it yet, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget that if you want to sign up for any of our packages, link is down below in the YouTube description box. And also, don't forget to take advantage. Portfolio EV, 7-day free trial. If you want to test the waters of our betting tools, no better way to do it than for free. So take advantage of that. Don't need any kind of promo code or anything. Anybody who signs up for the first time, you are active and you are able to get that 7-day free trial. So Portfolio EV, 7-day free trial. Certainly go ahead and check that out. And as you guys have seen, a lot of the great screenshots we've been getting from all of our different Portfolio EV subs, and also a lot of people who are Stokastic subs are also Portfolio EV subs. So we got a lot of people who are starting to migrate over to the betting tools as betting becomes more widespread across the country here. And then also we have our OddsShopper Hall of Fame. So if you guys have a big month, tweet it at us and you get yourself a free month of OddsShopper as well. But we're only one super chat away from Emacs unnecessarily horny message. So We're going to first answer Michael McKinney's super chat. Then we have to get to EMAC. Michael McKinney wants to know 5 favorite plays on FanDuel today. What are your 5 favorite overall plays on FanDuel, Eric?
Highest owned, and then my 5 highest owned plays currently: Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Obi Toppin.
Boy, it's a lot of Knicks. Precious Achua, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Io DeSunmu, and then Tyus Jones as well. Tyus Jones is a lot less popular on FanDuel than he is over on DraftKings. Here it is for me, Mac. Are you ready for this? Did you read this already?
No, if I had, I'd probably be disturbed. So go ahead.
EMAC wants to know who is the Taylor Mathis bust of the night. Eric, who is going to make a meme coin and rug us on this slate? Who's going to disappoint us? Who's rugging us tonight?
I'm offended. Or I know, whatever. I just at my place of employment. Don't mind me.
So is EMAC.
Joel Embiid seems likely. Joel Embiid could just absolutely rug pull it on us. 10K Joel Embiid sent to the locker room, Anthony Davis style, very live.
Many people don't know this, but EMAC works in HR in his real life job.
Oh my God. You can't do this in real life?
So this is, yeah. So EMAC works in HR, and you can see the training is paying off in his other places of employment as well. Boy, who's going to
work on the rack?
Who's going to rug us? I mean, you've already said Joel Embiid. That would obviously be devastating for me. I've got a decent amount of Jalen Duren. His minutes are always very insecure. That always scares the shit out of me. It's a great matchup for him against the Chicago Bulls. But there are games where he starts well and then he just gets benched for seemingly no reason by the Pistons. And then he doesn't check in until like the end of the first half, or he gets benched for entire fourth quarters. I think there's massive upside in Jalen Duren. I don't know what you're doing with him, Eric, but I never feel great about his playing time. But also on small slates, you don't feel great avoiding him either because he's such a good point spread and fantasy producer.
Yeah, you got to have. I have like a new rule in my life. It's play a little Isaiah Stewart. You got to play a little Stewie. Just hanging out there, mother. Got to play a little Stewart while you're at it, because you never know if he's going to get the lion's share of minutes, if Duren's going to get in foul trouble. And then Isaiah Stewart, it's fun to roster a guy who's live to kick another human during the game. I always think that that's enjoyable.
By the way, Valerie Uzel says that he pays for the Sims. He wants to know, does he have to pay to get his question? No, if you are a sub, join our Discord channel. All of the packages we have here come with access to Discord, and I'm frequently answering questions that we have from subs over the course of the show. If you're in our Discord channel and you tag me, I get to as many of those questions as I can. The only ones that I don't answer sometimes is sometimes people drop in questions like 2 minutes to go until lock or something like that, and we just run out of time. But generally, any question that's asked in the early portions of the show, it's getting answered on the show. So Valerie, join Discord. It comes with your subscription, and they hang out with everybody, sweat the games, and ask us questions during the show as well.
Why don't you come on over? No.
We've got Mike Will 87. Here's one that I think that you're gonna like, Eric. He wants to know our favorite contrarian options at each position.
Oh, I like getting different. Let's go.
All right, so let's say sub 20% owned. I think that's a fair
sub
way
20. Okay, that's a good way to do it. Yeah,
otherwise
it gets
like 5% owned at each position.
It gets dicey down in the old 5% range. Kevin Huerter.
Point guard for me, that is Miles McBride.
That is going to be Tyus Jones, 19%. Oh wait, I'm looking at FanDuel. I was going to say I knew he was way more popular than that. Point guard Miles McBride.
Shooting guard for me, it's also Miles McBride. There aren't other. I mean, you're probably going to go with Huerter here, so I don't want to take that. I don't think Huerter's a bad option either, but he's going to be your guy, I assume.
Huerter, but I hardly even know her.
Cool. Small forward. Small forward for me, that is going to be. Oof. Man, this position sucks. I'll go Neesmith.
G.G. Jackson. Woo! I'm going to have a bit for every one of these going across.
Power forward for me, that is Toppin.
Santi, baby. Santi Aldama.
Center, Joel Embiid.
I don't have a joke for this person. I'm going to go with Thomas Bryant.
I like how you're
Kind of a
trying
joke.
to figure out who you should answer based on what songs you could sing, what
Well,
jingles you
no,
could do.
no, I was trying to think of a Thomas Bryant joke. I didn't have one. He is just a large, tall glass of water, that Thomas Bryant.
All right. And now the next question. Boy, we've got this a few times here. A Catalogna wants to know the cash game locks. Yes. So back to the cash game locks. The players that I consider the locks for cash games: Emmanuel Quickly, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Tyus Jones. There are other guys like Grady Dick that look really good. I don't know that I'd quite call him a lock. I'd call him a very good option, but those guys I mentioned before, those are going to be your locks for cash games. And a lot of that is assuming that there's no OG Anunoby for the Knicks tonight.
That
All
is
right, let's get
correct.
back to the super chats because I think there were some that were sitting in there for us.
Mm-hmm.
And yes. All right. The Thunder wants to know, is Embiid in tonight? Yes, sir. He is in today. Pierre wants to know, if Memphis goes small, who are the top two value plays off the bench? So, all right.
Santi Aldama,
GG
GG Jackson.
From Pierre. Are there any value options off the bench you like for the Memphis Grizzlies?
Santi Aldama,
Mhm.
GG Jackson. Those are the two still.
Yeah, let's see.
Like, you could also have these interesting lineups. I had some like Brandon Clark, ridiculous Jalen Smith stuff, but then I ran it again in the Sims and it just looks terrible because now we have Precious Achua, we have Joel Embiid, and we have like, I don't think I want to punt center twice with those guys.
I'll say Brandon Clark.
Yeah.
I don't love any of these guys though. Like they're viable, but I don't want to make it seem like these are guys who are showing up in a bunch of lineups or anything.
Exactly. That's the point, is that like small slates, one of the default things you can always do is just try to take shots on backup centers and hope you walk into the foul trouble, because like on a 10-game slate, they're going to be like 1% owned, but it's so hard to identify. On a 4-game slate, you're going to get, they're the best fantasy performers anyway, but Brandon Clark isn't like outrageous to the point where I feel like I absolutely need to like try to force him in and make it work. He's a 0.95 DraftKings points per minute performer. I think Jalen Smith's just the like superior play in trying to punt to center or do something different there. But Memphis going small, GG Jackson, Santi Aldama are kind of my two guys.
Ryan Rennebaum has left the super chat, although he only wants me to answer, Eric. He's made this very clear. This is a question for me. It is not for you. Got it? Not allowed to answer. Doesn't want your opinion on this. His question, which he says is for me, is who's the Lindquist play of the day? The player most likely to melt down under pressure. Now remember, no saying anything. He doesn't want your input on this. This is only from me. Hold it in. All right. You've restrained yourself. Let's see. Who do I think that's going to be? Also, we're like 3 days behind I like the idea we're 3 days before the All-Star break. Like there's any pressure in any of these games at all. None of them really have that much significance. But if I have to pick somebody, I'm going to go with Tyrese Halliburton because he just seems to disappear for no reason at sometimes.
Yeah.
Like has any player been more confusing to you than Tyrese Halliburton this season?
I don't know. Most people from Iowa State are confused.
I've heard some of your college stories. That's not incorrect. But like I don't know how Tyrese Halliburton, who started the season off horrifically, seemed like he was dealing with an injury. Then you have a month of January where he actually goes nuts if you look at his shooting splits. And then if I remember correctly, like his first couple of games of February, at least had a couple of games back-to-back. He goes like scoreless and scores 3 points. I don't know what the hell to make of Tyrese Halliburton, but I've always been confused by him this season. I don't know how to make heads or tails of him.
Yeah, I don't know how to make head to tails of him either. What is that saying? I've never heard that.
Heads or tails. You don't know which side of him it's going to be.
Oh, I think
that's what it's supposed to mean.
That completely makes sense to me. And if it doesn't, well, your definition makes more sense than it sounded like, period. So well done, you.
Next question here. It is from Bun E2705. And he says the Sims are giving him nearly 100% of Mogbo. What should he realistically be at? Well, I'm not getting 100% of Mogbo.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I don't even know if I got Mogbo. Let me sort this because I just
Mogbo
uploaded my
very
lineups already.
poorly.
Yeah, what are you what do you I don't think I have a share of Mogbo. He's like almost 5K now, bro. Like, yeah, I have 2% Mogbo in my 100 lineups. 2.
Yeah, he's 4,900, and he's got pretty similar projection on FanDuel and DraftKings. FanDuel 23.9 fantasy points, $5,200. 23 fantasy points at $4,900 over on DraftKings.
It's gonna be a no from me, dog.
Somebody, yeah, maybe you have a weird filter on or something. Like I'm using the same data tools. I'm not getting to 100% of Mogbo. So I don't.
We need to change that up. That makes no sense.
All right. He says he reran and he is 3% now. So I don't.
There we are. Muy gooder.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, here's what he says. He said he accidentally had a custom projection on there. That'll do it.
Yeah,
that'll do it.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Like I remember like the old optimizer days, you accidentally put an extra zero in a player's name or something like that. And all of a sudden
very famously,
percent of them.
Very famously, Eric went from 10 to 100% Joel Embiid and binked a mini max with 150 Joel Embiid lineups. I don't know if you remember that. Those were good days.
Let's see what else we have here. Were there any other super chats? We have, yes, sir. Ethan King is asking us a 2v2. It is for a DraftKings high-stakes GPP. Joel Embiid and Grayson Allen, or Karl-Anthony Towns and Malik Beasley.
Malik
that is going to be Joel Embiid and Grayson Allen for me.
Yeah, it'd be Joel Embiid, Grayson Allen for me too, but I'm not like run into the window to go play Grayson Allen today. That's for sure. I mean, how much do I have? Oh, I do have a decent amount of Grayson Allen. Why do I have this much Grayson Allen? Oh yeah, it's Memphis. That might be why.
Yeah. Grayson Allen, he's not one of my most rostered players or anything like that, but I think he's very viable. And then Joel Embiid's my favorite pay-up option. So that's the direction I want to go in there.
All right. Well, here we go. OG officially out too. So go team. Way to go, Richie.
Changes nothing in our projections. We already had OG Anunoby ruled out. So nothing that we have to account for there. We're all set there. We've got Perrin in the chat. Perrin wants to know top 3 plays for a single entry DK small field. All right, I'm going to say Joel Embiid. He's one of them for me. And then Tyus Jones.
Who?
Tyus Jones.
Who?
Tyus Jones.
There we go. God, I love that bit. Really do. It never gets old. I love the Tyus Jones shout out. I will also, you don't have to play Kevin Huerter in one lineup. I would feel so horrible if that were the case, even though every time I do the nuke of the night, I'm like, oh yeah, people are playing one lineup and asking me this question, so I should clarify. I think Precious Achiuwa looks awesome for one lineup as well. 20% ownership. Now we got the confirmation 6 minutes before lock. He shouldn't be 22, 23% owned like he should be.
281-330-8004. Next question here is from what was the next one? Oh, here it is. All right, we got a betting question. Sick Tracks wants to know what our favorite bet of the day is. Jordan, do you mind pulling up Portfolio EV to see what's on the screen right now? I don't know what may have changed over the course of the show. By the way, gave out a good one at the top of the playback show, Eric. I don't know if you were watching, but
I did not.
Diabate 15-1 to score 15 points last night.
Ooh, look at that. He got there in 2.5 quarters.
He did. He actually, I didn't even think to ask Josh what it was for 20 plus points. That probably wasn't even on the board.
I played him in the $100 single entry because we had talked about it and then saw the news that it was going to be inactive on Nurk. So Nurk went from somebody I was very interested in to have 0% of him. But yeah, you were the one banging the drum for Diabate. So shout out you. He still worked out with like 40, I think, sub 5K.
Let's see what we have at the top of the board. A couple of Thomas Bryant unders. We got under 7.5 rebounds projecting pretty well. We've got under 19.5 PRA. That's also projecting well. So yeah, Thomas Bryant unders. Those look like a pretty good way to be going for tonight's slate. Best available line is currently on DraftKings. So Thomas Bryant under 19.5 PRA minus 105, or Thomas Bryant under 7.5 rebounds at minus 145. So those are the ones that are at the top of the board there. And I have no issues with a little bit of a Thomas Bryant fade. Like I said before, I like getting to Obi Toppin as a little bit of a contrarian DFS option. So sick tracks. Thank you very much for the question there. Just a few minutes left to go here. If you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Eric, any other final thoughts on the slate? Anything that we have not yet gotten to over the course of the show that you want to make sure we leave for the people before heading out?
How much dick do you have?
It's a little cold out right now. It depends. It's seasonal.
Okay. That was definitely the question I was asking.
I'll send you pictures later.
God, I don't want to play him in like 50% of my lineups. I just capped him at 35, and I'm going to live with that.
Yeah, I've got him in about half my lineups, 45%. So
God, it's so much. I was getting so much dick, and I don't want that much dick. Okay, YouTube chat, I don't want that much dick.
Liar, dirty, filthy liar. Yeah, no, I've got a good amount of him. A handful of exotics showing up in lineups today. Buzelis is showing up in lineups. I've got Vooch showing up in some lineups. Yeah, there's some good exotic. That'll happen on the 4-game slates. You got your guy, Kevin Herter, as another one to be getting to as well. It's that kind of slate. Slim pickings for talent. One other final thing that I want to ask you before we go out here, Eric, who's somebody who you are underweight to the field to that you are terrified is going to ruin your night?
Cade Cunningham, by far. I have so much of Quickly and Brunson and Tyus Jones. And if Cade Cunningham goes for 70, I'm going to lose money on this slate, and I know it.
Kobe Smith X wants to know, oh boy, he's taking shots at the soon-to-be old man here. He wants to know who's the Engleman nightmare play of the day, the contrarian player likely to go off since Josh goes to bed early. All right. Well, so the answer is probably going to be somebody who's not in Josh's lineups. The other part of this,
Jaren Jackson Jr. I have like none of, and Jaren Jackson Jr. would be a nightmare for me in the late night hammer. I have like every other part of that game except for like I wonder how much Durant I ended up with. He's like 26 points away from the 30K club, which I don't know. Probably don't put any stock into, but got to think he's lacing them up today alongside Devin Booker. They're both completely unowned. Kevin Durant's a little bit more popular, 9K power forward center, but it would be Jaren Jackson Jr. He'd be an absolute nightmare.
So the thing that's funny about these questions is if I knew I wish I just knew the answer. If I knew the answer, I'd be playing this person.
Well, we have 3,000 people who need to know your answer, Greg. You have the final say.
I'll say Andrew Nembhard.
Yep, that would be bad too. I have 0.
Yeah, Andrew Nembhard would be one. Also, here's something else. On some of these 5-game slates or 4-game slates, the smaller ones the Knicks are on, it's not infrequent for some of the ancillary pieces for the Knicks to ruin the slates for no reason, like the Christmas Day slate, Mikal Bridges. Yeah. Hey, look, he goes 17 of 19 from the field. There's something absurd like that. So ancillary pieces from the Knicks, like you get some random bench guy or even like a Mikal Bridges just scores a bunch of fantasy points at low ownership for no reason. Something like that. That's probably my nightmare.
Yep, that sounds pretty hideous too. So let's not do that.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you have not done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and come join Josh and I over in Playback. This is going to be your last opportunity to hang out with Josh for over a week. Tomorrow, it's going to be the big man's birthday. He's going to be off. And then we got the All-Star break coming up shortly after that. So you guys aren't going to see Josh for about a week. If you want an opportunity to hang out with him, come join us over in Playback, guys. Other than that, have a great night. Good luck with your lineups. See you over in Playback. Jordan just dropped the links in.